yesterday at the equities market, the index closed the second trading session of the week on a negative note, declining by 0.59% to 29,898.23 points, driven by a sell-off of some large cap stocks. Well, for Wednesday's market review, let's join Temple Ashaju at the exchange. Good morning, Temple. Well, I'm sure you have been following the latest on MTN Nigeria changing to PLC. Can we say it's a warm-up to listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange?
A lot of investors are happy that that has happened. Several interview sessions that the DG of the Securities and Exchange Commission has had over time about this MTN listing. What she usually says is, let MTN come and make their application first. Now that application seems to have happened. Now they have converted from a limited liability company to, of course, a public structure company. So this is something that a lot of markets watchers, observers, and traders here in the markets will really be looking forward to in the first half of this year. I mean, this month is almost ended already. We've got just 2 months to go. So they are really arms open wide, waiting for MTN to be listed in the first half of 2019. Again, as I said, it's going to create, or to renew rather, the telecoms asset class here in the market, because I recall we used to have IHS here in the telecom sector of the market. But since the exit of IHS from the market, there hasn't been any other company in that sector. So MTN coming on board by way of introduction will certainly give room for a lot of investors here to be able to key into the telecoms asset class of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Shimeze.
All right, you take us through Wednesday's trading activities.
Sure. So we were down again yesterday, almost 60 basis points, 59 basis points precisely. That represents some 177.69 absolute points, actually. And in Naira terms, what that wiped off of the market was specifically 66.78 billion Naira. And that's why if you look at the equity capitalization, what we have right now is 11.288 trillion Naira. Well, yesterday as well, we saw a decline from the 30,000 psychological mark. We're now back to 29,829.31 points yesterday. That's the 29,000 points yesterday. That's where we saw ourselves reversing to yesterday. So year-to-date expansion also, or year-to-date performance expanded to 4.87%. Month-to-date also expanded to 3.68%. If you look at the activity level yesterday, things were negative. We were down in terms of volume by 4%, down by in terms of the value of transactions we saw yesterday, which came in at 2.63 billion Naira. By some 28%, we declined yesterday, and we saw the total number of deals that we recorded yesterday coming in at 3,902. For the major contribution that we had yesterday, we saw some 92.3 million units of shares from Japol being traded and of course added to the level of transaction that we saw in the market yesterday. Japol yesterday again was the top gainer, up some 9.09%, and we saw some all of that valued at some 20.8 million Naira. But if you take a look at the activity, the market breadth rather, that measures the sentiment of the investors in the market. It was positive given the sense that we had some 26 gainers versus 14 losers, in spite of the fact that the market actually closed negative yesterday. Corn oil was the top loser yesterday, was down the most, 9.57%. We saw Dangote flour continuing to get more attractions from a lot of investors and traders here in the market, up yesterday by some 9.79%. The reason for this is simply because a lot of investors and analysts have done the valuations around the offerings, the binding offering from Olam over Dangote flour, and it's looking very attractive. We understand that it now has some kind of a premium of 123%, and that is really positive for a lot of investors. And if you go by the full year 2018 numbers, it is expected that this particular company, Dangote flour, will have some implied share price value of some 26 Naira 20 kobo or thereabout. So this is something that is really impressive for a lot of traders, a lot of investors in the market, and that's why you're saying Dangote flour seemingly now on bid. It's in the bid cut, I think, already. So this is what we're possibly going to continue to see till when they announce the effective date of the takeover or acquisition by Olam. And of course, I'm sure a lot of other stories around this particular development will continue to unfold. Going by the sectoral performance of the market, we got yesterday the banking sector and of course the insurance side of the market looking positive. The banking side was up some 93 basis points. The insurance was also up some 79 basis points. But the gains we saw around the banking sector, Unity Bank, UBA, Zenith Bank, Fidelity Bank, FBN Holdings, and Guarantee Trust Bank, all these major banks actually contributed to the solid performance we saw on the side of the market yesterday. Detail for insurance side of things, where we saw ICO performing well, as well as Wapik Insurance putting some gains on that side of the market. But if you look at the consumer goods segment of the market, International Breweries was down yesterday by more than 8%. We saw Nestle PLC also dipping by about 2% yesterday. So the losses that we saw on these two key companies actually offset the gains that was recorded on the share price of Dangote flour, Dangote sugar, Honeywell flour, and of course flour mill yesterday in the system. So, but today we'll wait and see how things pan out eventually. For the industrial goods segment of the market, that was also down. We saw WAPCO, which is Lafarge, declining yesterday. Dangote Cement was also down by some 94 basis points. And of course, First Aluminium, which already has announced its delisting intent to the market, also was down some 4.44% yesterday. In recent times, some investors have been playing quite actively in this particular company. This takes us to the oil and gas segment of the market, where we saw a whole lot of activities yesterday. We saw that segment was down the most yesterday by some 3.61%. Corn oil, which has been static for so long, was actually experiencing a bit of movement yesterday. Was down yesterday by some 9.57%. We saw some about 150,000 units of the shares traded in volume yesterday. Forto Oil didn't change, but 11 PLC also joined some of the energy stocks that actually experienced some decline, was down 2.72%. O&O, we saw a bit of a profit taking there yesterday. It was down by 5.88% and moving away from 5 naira 10 kobo, which it had closed at in the preceding trading session. If you look at Seplat also downward by some 4.39%. We haven't seen a reaction of investors or traders to the kind of synergy it's trying to have now with NNPC. So Total was unchanged yesterday in spite of some news around Total. We saw Eternal PLC as the only company that actually made some gains, up some 8.14%. But all the losses that we saw around the other companies that you have tradable in this sector actually offset that very impressive performance that we saw on Eternal PLC. Or if you like, that can also be described as some kind of a portfolio rebalancing by some smart investors on that side of the market. Japol, as we said earlier, up the most yesterday by 9.09%, and that contributed to the performance we saw there. Let's move to the unlisted securities market, where we saw a decline of some 0.08%. We still see the USI around the 700 mark, and of course market capitalization yesterday was 546.15 billion naira. Volume of transaction was close to 1 million, but it didn't hit that. It was just 9,710 units of shares that we had there. The value of transaction was 950.67 million yesterday, and deals was just 10, and we saw trading around 5 of the 38 securities we have in that market. Quickly, for the fixed income side of the market, largely yesterday on the bond side of things, we saw that side, the secondary side of the market, was actually order driven. We saw that the auction of the VMO that took place, 100 billion naira, took the center stage yesterday. We understand there was 97.4 billion naira that was raised eventually out of the 100 billion naira that was offered, and of course the 30-year bonds that everybody had their eyes on got priced at some 14.80% eventually. But benchmark 10-year security yesterday, February 2028, was actually the one that we saw a bit of a downward yield, and that contracted really much. That represents the mid side of the market, and of course we saw that it got a yield of some 14.39% eventually, compared to 14.45%. I understand we need to go now, but of course the treasury bill side of the market were also bullish yesterday.
So what sentiment have you observed as the market resumes today?
So a green sentiment in the market. That's some northward direction is where we're seeing the key benchmark indices of the NSE right now. It's up some 0.11% as at the last check we had on the market. And we're seeing a whole lot of interest in the consumer goods segment of the market. If you look at Unilever is experiencing some good performance at about this time. It's up in share price. Nigerian breweries, which also released its Q1 earnings, which is an impressive number yesterday, is also enjoying some kind of good performance at this time in the market. Again, the Dangote flour is currently up the most in the market, up some 9.67%. So if we put all this together, it's the reason why we're seeing a positive sentiment around a consumer goods segment of the market as a sector, which is currently up some 0.54%. For other sectors, they are currently down. In the industrial goods segment of the market, it's one part that we have seen some kind of sell down. I think Julius Berger, for example, seems to be the one that is currently moving that sector now with some huge volume that I can't really put a number to right now, but I know it is currently top on the chart of trade, top trade list in the market. But if you look at the banking side of things, currently it is down, but we know that Fidelity Bank recently released its numbers this morning, Q1 numbers. They look so impressive. I think the gross revenue is up some 11% plus, and that is something that we do expect some investors here in the market to also react to. Sterling Bank numbers is also out in the market. If you check the portal of the NSE, you will find that there. So it looks like today we will see investors' sentiments being driven mainly by the earnings numbers that will be coming into the market, because again, for the rest of this week, I don't think we have any holiday in sight except for May 1st, which is next week, where we will see another one-day break. So for the greater part, for today and tomorrow, we should see more numbers coming into the market, and that will possibly shape the sentiments of investors in the market going forward. I think I should also explain that the reason why we're seeing Dangote flour, which is on bid right now, driving the performance that we are seeing in the consumer goods sector of the market is because investors have done the valuations, analysts have also done the valuations, and they've realized that it has a premium of 123%. So it is an attractive deal. The fact that Olam is taking over that company, or has offered to take over that company, from the look of things, it looks like shareholders will, at the end of the day, approve the deal eventually, even though we know that it also requires some kind of a regulatory deal or a regulatory approval from the SEC, from the NSE, and of course a court sanction from a federal high court will also be required for all of this deal to happen. We understand that currently Dangote flour mill is about the second largest flour milling company in the whole of the Nigerian market, coming after flour mills, which is a company also listed here in the market. But at the end of the day, if the takeover by Olam happens, it should become something much bigger, and of course maybe the largest in the country going forward. We understand that Olam, these particular deals is a strategic arrangement by Olam to invest some $3.5 billion in Nigeria between the year 2019 and 2024. So this is something that a lot of investors are looking forward to. The fact that it has an implied share price of 26 naira 20 kobo, it is something that a lot of investors are watching and of course putting their money on. So you get so traders here now are receiving calls left, right, and center, finding out if they can still get some interest in Dangote flour. I see that particular company being on bid for the rest of the week and of course into next week going forward, Chimeze.
Well, the day has just started for the markets. Let's watch and see what happens. Of course, we'll get back to you at lunchtime program Business Incorporated to give us an update on the developments there in the market.